All right, for those watching at home, this is the 2022 Roadway Rehabilitation Project informational meeting. We're going to start here with a video going over what to expect with the road construction process.
Every year, the city improves sections of neighborhood streets from a variety of areas of Woodbury. Most of the roads are in residential areas. The staff conducts a series of neighborhood meetings, open houses, and public hearings related to the roadway rehabilitation project. Residents attending these meetings have the opportunity to learn about the construction process, special assessments and funding, how it will impact them, and ask questions about the project. Special assessments are a charge imposed for improvements that benefit nearby properties. The amount of the charge bears a direct relationship to the benefit the property receives and is based on the city's assessment policy. Assessments are used as a partial project funding source in addition to general tax revenues and other sources. Once the project is formally approved by City Council, construction begins. First step in the process is removing portions of the old pavement. A milling machine proceeds slowly down the street as it removes the top surface of the pavement, leaving a rough but drivable surface. In most cases, the roads remain open to traffic through the milling process. Depending on the location of the project, utility improvements might be done in conjunction with the roadway work. These improvements include sewers, water mains, natural gas lines, and communication cables. Utility work requires extensive digging and usually results in temporary lane or roadway closures. Motorists should be aware of detours in these areas. All projects involve curb and gutter work. Approximately 1 week before curb construction, sections are evaluated and marked for removal. If your curb needs replaced, you will be notified and given information on how it will impact your resident. During construction, any irrigation systems, dog fences, or other private features within the right-of-way will have to be moved by the property owner. Asphalt driveways damaged during curb replacement will be patched. Damaged concrete driveways will be removed and replaced. Curb work will also impact your lawn. The contractor will replace disturbed areas with seed and hydro mulch. The contractor will care for the area for 30 days. Residents are encouraged to water and care for the areas to achieve the best results. Once curb work is completed, it cannot be driven over for 5 to 7 days. Prior to final paving, the street surface will be thoroughly swept. After this step, the final pavement process will begin. Before the new asphalt is laid, tack oil is applied to the road. Residents should avoid driving on the tack oil because it can stick to driveways and vehicles. With tack oil in place, crews will then begin the paving process. After the new asphalt is rolled and has cooled, it is immediately ready to use. If you have any questions regarding the project process, assessments, or the scope of the project proposed for your neighborhood, please contact the City of Woodbury Engineering Department at 651-714-3593.
I just closed it. Great. So Tony, I think you'll be able to see the presentation now. All right, so we will kick this off. This is the 2022 Roadway Rehabilitation Project kind of informational meeting. So start off with introductions. My name is Mike Hana. You've probably seen my name on the letters that you've gotten. Here with me, Tony Kutsky. He is our city engineer. We've got a couple of our consultant staff that's in the back that's going to help us answer questions. We've got Jeff Toutant, Mike Nill, and then somewhere is Eric Seberg. Not sure where he is, but so we'll be around after the meeting to answer questions. So what the format of this is going to be is I'm going to go through this presentation here. We'll take online questions as they come in. So if you're watching online, you have a question, feel free to send it in, and we'll address them all at the very end. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll open this up into an open house format where you can come to Tony or I or get louder. Okay.
If there's anyone standing that would like to sit, feel free to grab the chairs up in front here.
So yeah, at the very end of the meeting, if you have questions, feel free to talk to Tony, me, or Mike, or Jeff, or Eric, wherever he is, and we'll talk about the project, about specific things regarding your property, since I'm sure all of you are curious. We're not going to have a ton of construction answers tonight. This is more to go over project scope and assessments and funding, and then we'll go over the next steps at the very end. So project area, hopefully all of you live in this area. This is the Royal Oaks neighborhood. The next step in the process, I think you all received this letter. October 27th will be the public improvement hearing, which will be a city council meeting. And that's when we would order the project, approve feasibility reports, and prepare the final plans and specifications. Online. All right. Make sure, okay, I'm not muted. Sorry about this. It should be the right microphone. All right, I'll just have to speak up. So recommended project scope. So this is what is going to be included in the project scope when we bring this to the public improvement hearing at council here in a couple of weeks. So the project scope recommended includes the full water main and service replacement in this neighborhood, sanitary sewer lining service replacement, stormwater quality improvements, including some rain gardens for those people who attended the meeting at 6 o'clock, full curb replacement, a significant amount of storm sewer replacement, full depth pavement replacement, some traffic calming, and sidewalk and trail construction. So one of the questions that we get a lot is how do we come up with the scope? And there's three things that really go into it. So it's a combination of public engagement. We've had a couple of previous engagements in the last couple of springs where we've received some feedback. So thank you to all of you who answered that feedback. We also look at what our city policy is with these construction projects, and then general engineering guidance and practice. And then using those three together, we come up with what our recommended project scope is. So we'll start off with the water main. So with the water main replacement, this is going to be a big project. So just want you, should turn this off. Just want to make you all aware that with the water main replacement, we're going to show a picture here in a little bit. This is going to be a significant project. As you can see on this map here, this red area here is the Royal Oaks neighborhood. So in the last 20 years, that has been a really high percentage of where our water main is breaking. So that is something that we need to fix with this project. So this is what the water main replacement is going to look like. So as you can see, it's a very extensive and it's going to be very impactful to properties. It's going to be digging a hole about 10 feet deep, and then we're also going to be replacing services as a part of this, which are your individual water and sewer services into your home, which would come about 15 feet past the curb into your property. So this is going to be an impactful project. With the service replacement, while we're replacing that, we'll have to provide temporary water. And so you're going to see these blue water hoses above land, and that's where the water is going to be fed from. And it's going to require a couple of temporary water shutoffs, and there's no way around it. So what we would do is we'll connect the water to your service location right at the property line and provide service. But in order to do that, we'll have to shut off your water at least a few times. Other item with this project is the trail and sidewalk construction. So I think it's hard to see on this map here. This map is also on our website, and we've got some poster boards on the back here that show where we're proposing the trail and sidewalk. So all of the through streets are being proposed either a trail or sidewalk, and then the more major streets, Queens, Montrose, Courtly, and Afton, we're looking at putting in trails. And with all of these roads, we're looking at narrowing them. Right now, they're 32 feet wide. I guess well, we'll get to that in the next slide. So how we got to that, part of it came from city policy, part of it came from some of the feedback that we gathered. So these are some of the responses that we got with our previous feedback. So concerns about either pedestrian or bicycle safety, or concerns about traffic speed. And then we showed this similar map in May 2021, and 63% indicated that the sidewalk and trails met their needs for safety. So this is the section that I briefly had mentioned. So right now the existing roads are generally 32 feet wide. Courtly is a little bit wider. But we are proposing to narrow that down to 28 feet and putting a sidewalk, a 5-foot sidewalk on the road. And so if you look at the existing section, you can see the center line is usually right in the middle of the right of way. So the one side, we're not proposing to change the where the curb is. We're going to narrow it just on the one side that the sidewalk is in to try to minimize the impacts from the sidewalk location. And so this is kind of a summary of.
I didn't understand this.
So we're narrowing the road by 4 feet. So we're narrowing the road by 4 feet, and the side that we're narrowing on is where the sidewalk is proposed.
Just Courtly, did you say, or?
All of the streets that show the sidewalk.
Which side of the street is it on?
So that map before, so we'll open up to questions. It's with the online people, it's tricky to kind of do both, but we'll have questions at the very end here. But we have a map that shows which side that it's going to be on. So if you're looking, if it's in front of your property, we have maps that are in the back here. And then at the very end of the meeting, I'll pull up a map and we can just leave it on the screen here. So recommendations for the trail and sidewalk was based on a few things. So increasing the safety and livability of the neighborhoods by promoting some slower vehicle speeds and providing a separated spot for pedestrians, and providing a non-motorized option for transportation to reduce the number of vehicles, promote healthy lifestyle, and allow for alternative modes of transportation for vehicles, and to meet safe routes to schools, with 2 schools being in this neighborhood. And with the scope of this project, the new sidewalks increase the project cost by about $75,000, which in our judgment is a cost-effective time to put sidewalks in. With utility replacements, as I mentioned before, the utilities will replace all the way to the right-of-way line, which is so it's 16 feet generally from the back of the curb. And so when we replace the services, we'll have to dig a hole down there about 8 to 10 feet deep. So we'll need to dig a hole about 10 feet in diameter, or in 10-foot radius, so about 20-foot diameter, to access that service, to provide the workers a safe spot to tie those in. So it's going to be pretty substantial impacts to front yards and to landscaping. It will require some tree removals. Right now, we're estimating about 120 tree removals based on the service replacement that's required with this project. Sidewalk trail also will have impacts. So I had showed it. The sidewalk is about 6 feet. The edge of the sidewalk will be about 6 feet behind the existing curb. In order to tie it back in with the existing ground elevation, we'll have to grade in a few feet beyond that. So it'll end up being about 10 feet behind the curb of disturbances. It will also require some tree removals. Right now, we're estimating about 25 tree removals that are just based on the sidewalk. And then the last item is something that comes up often, and so we just wanted to get out there that the sidewalks that are in front of lots, the residents are responsible for that snow removal. The trails that are on Queens and Afton and Courtly and Montrose, the city would plow those. So estimated project cost, again, I mentioned this is a big project. $28 million is what we're looking at for total costs for this project. So this is a bigger project that I've ever worked on. It's going to be inconvenient, to say the least, while this is in construction. I didn't mention, but this is going to be a 2-year construction project. in order to get all this work done, I will say that they won't be in front of your house for 2 years. We'll phase it to try to get it done as efficiently as possible and to minimize impacts, but there will be impacts. And it will be a multi-year construction project. And so this is how the project is going to be funded. Most of this is street costs, and then there's about $7 million that's going to be coming out of those utility costs, and that's for that water main and sanitary work. And about $5 million is paid for through assessments. So we'll talk about assessments here real quick. So all of these highlighted properties should have received a letter here. Based on the city policy, they will be assessed for the work that we do with this project. So special assessments, basically they're a charge that are put on the properties for a certain improvement. So we assess for road reconstruction and rehabilitation projects at the city. It benefits the owners of these selected properties, and they are a levy that the city uses to partially finance these public improvement projects. So with this project, the assessments pay for about 18% of the project, and the city pays for the other 82%.
Who's saying it benefits our
So we'll try to get through this presentation, and we'll get to questions at the end. So the assessment hearing will be held prior to the project award. So usually that's sometime in March. You can pay either 30 days, no interest, or it can be rolled over onto your property taxes. And the first payment would be due in 2023 with the first half of your property taxes. And we'll have an interest rate. We don't have it right now. We set that right before the assessment hearing. And so these are the estimated assessments right now. These haven't been finalized, but this is what we are estimating is what the assessments will be based on benefit appraisals through our city policy. And again, the two ways that that those can be paid is either within 30 days with no interest, or they can be rolled over onto your property taxes and paid over 15 years.
Go back to that slide.
Yep. And I should note, for those watching online and anybody here, this is being recorded right now. So we'll post this on the project website here after this meeting, or not after the meeting, either tomorrow or later this week, and it'll be available for you to watch anytime. The proposed schedule here, so October 27th, so a couple weeks, this when we'll have the public improvement hearing at city council meeting. So that'll be on a Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. right here. And that's where we'll approve we tentatively approve the preliminary report and order the project. January would open bids, and then following that, we'd have another neighborhood meeting to talk more about the assessments prior to the assessment hearing, which would be March 2022 before the final neighborhood meeting, and that's when we would talk more about the construction once we have more of those details. So that would be right before construction in April 2022, and then as I mentioned, this will be a full two-year construction project, starting hopefully April 2022 and probably wrapping up October, possibly November 2023. So hopefully you all grabbed a little In Touch flyer. That's going to be a good way to stay in touch with this project. We'll send notifications on In Touch. We do it a lot during construction. That's the best way to get weekly updates on where the construction is. One thing we know about construction is it changes all the time. So we'll give a estimated schedule in April, but it will change. So if you want to know what's going on, In Touch is really the best way to do it. And then my contact information is on this slide as well, along with Tony, the city engineer. So feel free to contact us with any questions, complaints, whatever you got.